Welcome to day 3 of the 15 Minutes to Quilt Challenge. Come and sew with me while I embellish my jeans quilt. This is a quilt that I started a long time ago, maybe late 80s, early 90s. And it was kind of already old-fashioned by the time I started it. I think maybe this kind of style of quilt was more popular in the 70s. But I was running behind the time. And I really like the look. I like the idea of reusing fabric, recycling it. These are all my jeans that I wore at the time. And I really enjoyed piecing it together. It wasn't as hard as I thought it would be using the bulky seams. And I put it together pretty quickly. There is a place in here that needs a tuck because it does not lay flat. That's an easy fix that I can fix now. In the past, I was thinking about appliquing things like iron-ons like I'm doing here and other iron-ons that I already have on the quilt. There's the fireman's motif. There's some applique made out of jeans. This is a butterfly. And there's also a house and a tree. But now I'm thinking I can just do other simpler things. Like I could just applique squares of leftover fabric from another project. Or I could just embroider some things on it, like just a bunch of squares, a bunch of X's, anything like that. It's taking a long time to do this little thing. Might spend my whole 15 minutes just on this. Hope not. I think the fact that I'm using my left hand for part of this is slowing me down a little bit, but this is a slow stitching project, and there's no point in rushing it. It's better to take my time and do it right the first time. Oh, lost the thread. I'm going to abandon the yellow for the minute and then just add some running stitches or add some other kind of embellishment with the blue thread, with the blue embroidery floss. This video is a part of a series of videos I'm doing here this month for Vlogmas, where I show you all of the works where I work on a lot of my old projects, dusting off my old projects, and showing how much work can get done in just 15 minutes a day. I thought that it would just be nice to be able to show you some progress. You'll get a chance for my old projects to come out of the... It'll be a chance to get some of my old projects out in the sunshine and let them move ahead a little bit. Because to me, all of my projects are like standing in a line. And sometimes there's a lot of other projects that wind up getting in front of the line. And then projects like this one just stagnate and they have to stay in the cedar chest forever. But if I can, as I move each quilt keeps coming up farther into the line. But if I can make project, so it is kind of coming forward. Every project that I work on moves all of the other quilts for a little bit farther ahead in the line. But unfortunately for this quilt, there's a lot of quilts that wound up cutting the line and getting even farther ahead. And so this one just doesn't seem to ever get too far ahead. It's always been close to the end of the line. And I thought that if I could move it to the front today and let it make a little progress, it'll feel a little bit better. I'll feel a little bit better about it. Because this is a big quilt, I don't want to try to get underneath the quilt too much. So this process, don't normally make cross stitches this way without putting my hand underneath it, but I think it's working out okay. It's nice to try different methods of doing things. far I don't think I got anything hot underneath it, so I think it's good. There we go. I can get my hand underneath now. These wonky stitches may look bad at the beginning, but I think that I like to make it up in volume. So the more wonky stitches there are, the more deliberate it looks, and I think it looks better over time as you keep going and as the intention of the quilt becomes more clear. I know that one time when I made my first improv quilt with the stars that didn't always have sharp corners, I had to keep telling everybody that I saw, hey, this one is deliberately this way. And now I think they're used to it, and they know that sometimes that's how my quilts turn out. I deliberately make them wonky. Some of them are deliberately wonky, other times they're accidental, and nobody really knows which way I'm trying. Sometimes it's kind of nice that people don't know what my intention was until I make a bunch of them, and the more mistakes if there's a lot of mistakes, then it was intentional, and if there's only one or two, maybe it wasn't so intentional, or maybe it was. You never know. This is a lot of fun. It's very relaxing and calming to be able to work on this quilt. Not really worried about running out of the blue thread because I have a big box of embroidery floss that I received as a gift from somebody who was clearing out their parents' house, and I really loved receiving the gift, and it's an honor to me to be able to use up their supplies in the manner that the original person who had them meant to use it. Okay, my thread just got out of the needle, so maybe it is time to switch to a different color. Let me see what time it is. I like to use up the leftover strings before I work on the next one. Not sure it was a good idea to put the cross stitch right on top of the bear's head, but maybe once I put more around as I add more, I guess it won't look like a stick coming out of the bear's head. Just gonna tuck the knot underneath. Since the applique is loose right now, it's a good way to use it up. Since the applique hasn't been added to the quilt yet completely, not really sure what I'm going to do with the batting, if it's going to have batting. Might be too thick for batting. Maybe I can put a fleece underneath it or something else. It's a quilt now until I make that decision, and then it might wind up being something else. I think there are people who still call things that don't have batting in it as applique. Lost my train of thought there. It's alright, keeping it. It's one way to make sure it looks deliberate is by leaving everything in there. And you can make the stitches as big or as small as you want. And even though this color is very close to the color of the jeans, I think it still adds a nice touch, and it gives a bonus to people who take the time to look at the quilt closely. And if you wanted to make it darker, you could go over it again. Or if you still had thread left over, you could just weave it through, which I think I might do actually. Even though there's not enough to go all the way around. since I'm recording this video and doing the stitching in 15 minutes, I won't have time to edit a lot of it, so you'll hear the dog in the background and the cars and me mumbling and saying all the time. I hope you forgive me for all of that. I do have other videos where I do edit more thoroughly. I think these are too small to use. I could add a knot here and there. I think I'm out of memory. Had a battery in my phone. Maybe it's problematic because it's using up too much memory. One of the problems with having to record a video once a day is that if you have camera problems, you run out of video to start over again. I think most of the video was on camera though. Okay, you can stab a fabric when you get mad at the camera. Come back down to a nice calm mindset. And it's funny how some days I like to have everything nice and neat, and I wouldn't do anything like having knots on the front. But today, I just feel like doing that. So this is a casual quilt, and I like working on casual quilts like this, where you can pretty much just go with the flow, and no matter what you do, even if you put the knots on the front, it's fine, because it's your quilt, and you can do whatever you want. And the more interesting things you do on the quilt, the more interesting the quilt becomes. It gives people something to talk about. Oh, she's the kind of person who puts knots on the front of her quilt. Wonder why she did that. And there's really no answer, because I don't know either. I just don't feel like looking. I don't feel like trying to get to the underneath the quilt, so I'm going to go ahead and put the knots on the top, even if they are awkward to do. Sometimes things are easy, and other times they just are hard. There we go. I think I'm going to leave them loose like this. Well, my 15 minutes are up. So this was a fun little 15-minute session, and I can go on about my day and do some housework or some errands, do some laundry. And it's nice that no matter what, I have 15 minutes that I can just relax and spend time decompressing and just enjoying my stitching and making a little bit of progress on this quilt. And even though it doesn't feel like a lot, I know that this is more than I would have gotten done if I hadn't taken this 15 minutes. This quilt would still be, without this 15 minutes a day challenge, this quilt would still be sitting in the cedar chest. And now at least it's got 15 minutes more done. Now it's got a little bit more done. It's a little bit farther ahead. Moved just a teeny tiny bit ahead in line. And this bear now is secure in here, and I'll never lose it. Are you joining me for the 15 Minutes to Quilt Challenge? Let me know in the comments below what you're working on and how much you got done. I'll enter your name in the drawing. I'm going to pick a winner on January 1. Quilts like these are also a great way to use embroidery floss from another project. So if you have, say, little tiny strand that's left over, you can just go ahead and add it to the quilt anywhere in whatever quick and easy way that you can, and then you'll have the thread out of your way without having to throw it away. It's been a lot of fun digging out all of my old projects that I haven't worked on in a long time, and I hope you'll join me tomorrow where I'll be working on yet another project. Thank you for watching. Come back. I'll see you tomorrow.